Today's going to be a rough one. I'm going to discuss my biggest regret in life. Now, I want you to take a second and think about just how big that sentence was. Can you think of your biggest mistake, a regret in life that's so huge you feel like it changed the course of everything? Because I have one of those moments, and I don't talk about it much over here because it's so painful, but today there's a reason why we're going to discuss it. When I finish with that, I'm going to move into something I recently found out that is mind-blowing, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into the inner workings of Kristi, her brain, the thought process, and it's a lot. But what was so surprising was I found out that apparently I'm not alone. It's estimated that about 8 million Americans have the same issues that I do, but it gets better. 80% have no idea. Well, I guess we better get started or we'll be here all day. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of what I'm calling Tea with Kristi. Yeah, I've given up on a name because it is taking up too much brain power and I'm ready to move on. Plus, honestly, I like the double meaning. I'm drinking tea and we're gonna spill some tea. We're gonna chat. We're gonna gossip. No, we're not gossiping, but we're gonna talk about things that are rattling around in the old noggin that I want to get out. It's not gonna be all things keto. I mean, yeah, we will chat about that as well, but it's gonna be weight loss journey, gastric bypass, diabetes, insulin pump, you name it, it's gonna be here. This is our safe space to talk about all the things. So I do have one problem. If you check out the little thumbnail, you're going to notice that it says Keto Vlogcast. I need your suggestions on what word to replace keto with when it comes to the little thumbnail or the title of this video. I need something to go there. Today's tea is Red Rose. It's a new one that I recently picked up from Amazon because unfortunately I don't have Red Rose in any of the grocery stores in my area. This one is cinnamon roll, stevia sweetened, delicious, and it doesn't spike my blood sugar. I also have a water and an energy drink right there. Yeah, 3 drinks. Oh, we'll go into more detail about that in just a second. I do want to give a quick disclaimer. Your girl right here is not a doctor. I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not a nutritionist. And I most certainly am not giving medical advice. I'm just talking about what happened with me, my experience, and giving my opinion. Okay, go ahead and sit back and relax, get nice and comfy. Feel free to pause it and run to the fridge. Get you a drink if you need one, because I got 3. Prepare yourself for my first topic, which is my biggest regret. Let me just say, ick. This is one of those topics that I don't like discussing, and it's for several reasons. Number 1, nobody likes to talk about their biggest mistake in life, their number 1 regret, what they wish they could push a button and get a do-over on. Nobody likes to talk about the things that have caused them so much pain and caused their family members, the people that they love most, heartache. I know I don't like reliving it. I'm completely honest on my channel. It's just this is that one thing I never really went into great detail about. I'm one of those people that puts up walls or barriers, and I even do that here. Sort of wrap myself in a cocoon to keep me safe. And that brings me to number 2. This topic brings out the nasty in people. You know the ones I'm talking about. The fanatics, the ones that believe it's their way or the highway. There's only one way to do anything. Sort of like the keto police. The very few times I have talked about this subject, I have got such hate. People like to invalidate my experience and my opinion, and that's the thing about it. I feel like if someone had gastric bypass surgery and they had a wonderful experience. I am so happy for them. But people have the right to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and get all the information. With that being said, remember, not giving medical advice, just sharing my experience. The only reason I'm talking about this right now in today's video is because it's my 18-year anniversary today. On this day, in January of 2006, at the age of 31 years old, had gastric bypass surgery, what some people call RNY. That surgery was like a butterfly effect. After I had it done, it was just one thing after another. It affected my health physically, mentally. I was an emotional mess. I've talked about the fact that I have had a weight problem since the age of 8. And I did this constant yo-yo dieting. Whatever the fad was at the time, I would go on that diet. I would lose the weight. I would come off of that diet. And then I would gain it all back plus more. So on that day in 2006, when I had RNY, I was weighing in at about 330 pounds. I am 5'11", but I was still considered morbidly obese. But I had 0 comorbidities, no other health issues at all. And I remember my doctor telling me if I did not have this surgery and lose the weight, that I would not see my children grow up. And let's face it, I thought it was going to be this magical thing I had been looking for, and it was going to solve all my problems. But what it all boils down to is your stomach is cut down to the size of a grape or the end of your thumb. So this is how much food you can consume. That's not a lot of food. It seems like it's forced starvation, in my opinion. I lost the weight in record time for several reasons. First, I hyperfixated on my diet that the doctor gave me, not wavering at all, because, that's just part of my personality. We'll go into more about that later. And I was also terrified when your stomach's this size. If you overeat, you could rupture a stitch, you could get an infection, the list is very long of all the possibilities, the bad things that could happen. So yeah, I was scared. All of that was just the first 6 months. At the 7-8 month mark is when things started getting really ugly for me physically. Now let's go over all the things I didn't know. Surely more information is given out now, 18 years after my surgery. I was never informed that complications from RNY could arise years or even decades later, and that those complications could persist throughout my lifetime. Anemia, hypoglycemia, both of which I developed right after surgery, as well as dumping syndrome, not pretty, ulcers, hernias, bowel obstructions, the list is long, and even death, decades after surgery. For the skeptics that have had this surgery and had a glorious outcome, I'm happy for you, I truly am, but you have to remember, it was a different time. My surgery was in 2006, when we had dial-up internet, and basically our only social media was MySpace. So researching anything was a very tedious process that involved the library. So that was useless. What you did in those days was listen to your doctor, your healthcare professionals. You thought they knew best. Fortunately, for anyone looking into weight loss surgery now, there's access to literally more information, studies, and statistics than you could possibly ever read. So you will have information overload, but that's a good thing because you want to make an educated and informed decision. For anyone considering it, this is my advice. Do your research, look up as much as possible. Read every single article, but don't only look up and talk to people that have had a positive experience. You need to hear the horror stories as well. You need to know what could possibly go wrong. Oh, and another big piece of information that's important to know. Your little itty bitty stomach that's the size of a grape, that will stretch out over time and could end up about the same size as the one they bypassed. So you could very easily gain every single pound back plus more. I just want people to know that this isn't the easy way. This surgery and the decades that have followed has been the hardest thing I have ever had to do. It's not magic, it's a lot of work. If I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, there's no way. I would much rather be 330 pounds than go through that torment, that torture, that heartache ever again. And I like to tell myself that if I had access to all the information that's out there now, the Facebook groups, the statistics, the research, that I would have made a different decision. That's at least what I keep telling myself, but who knows? One of these days, very soon, I'm going to sit down and try my best to cram my gastric bypass story into a video that's, not days long. It's a heck of a story and not a journey I would wish on anyone. Listen to this number. It is estimated that 8 million adults in America have ADHD. Here's the kicker. It's believed 80% of those have no idea they have it. Approximately 5% of the adult population in this country is living with undiagnosed and untreated ADHD. Wow. And that was me up until August of 2022. There's so much to unpack here. I feel like I got tons of luggage. I've been working on this video for 3 days at this point, and I think that I have recorded the entire thing, completely canned it, and started over a half a dozen times. I'm thinking to myself, that's not good enough. The color's off. The sound's not right. Oh, I left out that piece of information. So I can the entire video and start over. I'm not going to this time. If it's not perfect, then so be it. Because guess who else is not perfect? Yeah, me. Or anyone for that matter. I have a tendency to ramble and go off topic, but I'm going to make this the quickest diagnosis story you've ever heard because I feel like you need just a little bit of context. October of 2021, I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. Just boom, there it was. What that means for me is my pancreas does not produce insulin, so I have to inject myself, and I'll have to do that forever. Due to the fact that I had gastric bypass plus numerous other factors, I was not able to keep my blood sugar at a steady level, so I was having constant ups and downs. I started having a lot of issues with cognitive impairment. I was forgetting things. I could form the sentence in my head, but it wouldn't come out my mouth. My entire life, I had lived with this voice, my voice, in my head, giving me constant dialogue and analyzing everything. But now all of a sudden, radio silence. Not a bad thing, but the fact that I couldn't think, I couldn't function like I used to, prompted me to bring this up to my doctor. That was August of 2022. And the first time ever, ADHD was brought up. I did an assessment, answered a ton of questions, and we talked probably for about an hour. That was the day I was diagnosed with ADHD. When I say my brain was not functioning, I don't think I can explain it properly. How scary it was to be so forgetful, to not remember words, where you were at, people's names. So when we discussed my ADHD diagnosis, I didn't understand anything. And normally I would have went home and researched it, but I was not capable. My brain wasn't working. I later found out that was because of the blood sugar lows, and it forced my ADHD to be out there in the open. My endocrinologist insisted that I should try the insulin pump. I've been on the Omnipod 5 now for about 5 or 6 weeks, and it's working. My brain, not fully back to where it was, but hopefully on its way. I'm not having blood sugar lows, so that's been a huge bonus. So now that my brain is functioning again, I decided to look up ADHD. I started the research process that I would have done a year ago, but just couldn't. After going through some of the signs and symptoms, characteristics, looking back, I could have easily been diagnosed in childhood if that would have been something they looked for at the time. Remember, I was born in the 70s. 3 TV channels. We had to change our dial. The TVs had antennas. I was a latchkey kid. I was in an empty house. I got myself to and from school every single day, and I was 10. Gen X. Yeah, if we got sick, we got a scratch, we rubbed dirt on it and kept going. ADHD was just not a thing. And if it was, it definitely wasn't talked about. And I think that may be the problem. There's still a huge stigma around it in this country. ADHD is not a made-up illness. It is a chronic neurobiological disorder, and it affects the brain's structural and chemical capabilities. Basically, what that's saying is ADHD affects the way parts of the brain communicate with other parts of the brain. And let's just say it's not doing it correctly. ADHD is now thought to be on a spectrum. So when you read the signs, the characteristics, the symptoms, you don't have to have all of them. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That hyperactivity part, that's not always present. So when I was told that I had ADHD, I was like, oh no. To me, it was that stereotypical little boy that couldn't focus, constantly all over the place, snatching things out of people's hands, disrupting the teacher, and never still. No. I mean, it can be that way, but that's not normally how it presents in little girls. If you have ADHD, you can focus. It's that you have a hard time directing your focus. If it's something that I don't find interesting, nope, not going to be able to pay attention. If it's something I love, I have a tendency to hyper-focus and stay on it until I master it. Here's the thing, I always felt different. My youngest memories, I felt like I wasn't like everybody else. And the mean girl in my head, meaning me, was very critical, very negative, and telling me I wasn't good enough, that if people knew the real me, they wouldn't like me, that I had to hide my true self. I never had this sense that I belonged anywhere, just felt different. As I do more and more research, I am stunned by the things that I'm learning. Over the past 49 years, I've been diagnosed with so many things that I believe go back to undiagnosed ADHD, depression, and anxiety. I had a 10-year-long addiction to alcohol. I don't talk about it much because the shame I feel from that is unbearable. When people would say, "But why do you drink every single day?" My response was, it shuts up that voice in my head. It's quiet. Turns out I was self-medicating with vodka. I already told you that I've been overweight my entire life, since at least the age of 8, and that I tried every single diet. Well, guess what? Research suggests adults with ADHD are 70% more likely to be obese. I'm no expert at this. And like I told you, I have just been researching and doing a deep dive into what exactly is going on with me and ADHD the past 2 weeks. I'm going to put some links down in the description box for you guys. That way you can get your own information. You can see the different types of ADHD, the fact that there are multiple different characteristics, and you don't have to have every single one. treatment does not have to include medication. There are lots of options out there. But I do believe that just knowing and having the diagnosis is a huge step in the right direction. I don't plan on stopping my research. I want to learn as much about it as possible, and I don't have to feel guilty and ashamed, and I don't need to hide who I am. My brain doesn't function like a typical person's brain does. If you think maybe, just maybe, you have undiagnosed ADHD or someone you love could possibly have it, bring it up to your healthcare professional. Talk about it. The stigma around ADHD needs to go away. And if you're interested in me doing more videos about it as I get more information, let me know in the comments. Well, look at me go. I managed to finish episode 5 of Tea with Kristi. If you have any suggestions for future topics, things you want to talk about, go over and discuss, you know where to put them. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do so, because I'd love to have you as a part of my YouTube family. Hit that notification bell so that as soon as I upload, you'll be alerted. And if you haven't seen episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's an entire playlist. Go check them out. I hope you're having an amazing day. Bye.